But we are now making progress. The waiting lists are coming down. But what Keir Starmer didn't mention to you, which you did, Julie.
Waiting list 7.2 million, they're now 7.5 million. He says they're coming down, and this is the guy who says he's good at maths.
Yeah, they are now coming down. They are now coming down.
7.2 when you said you get them down. 7.2 million, they're now 7.5 million. I'd like you to explain how they're coming down.
Because they were coming down from where they were when they were higher.
7.2.
And they're now on their way down. They are down.
We are at a crisis. I am not being hyperbolic when I say that the foundations of British democracy are beginning to crack. If you're from the UK or are interested or affected in any way, this is very important to pay attention to, even if you don't care about the general election. I'm going to need you to watch this all the way to the end, okay? I'm not going to take much of your time. Okay, so what the hell has happened in the UK? After 14 years of Tory rule following the Great Recession, 5 prime ministers, 4 general elections and 2 monarchs, the British people went out to the polls on July the 4th, where analysts were expecting what was named the Starmageddon, a Keir Starmer landslide. So what ended up happening? Keir Starmer did indeed have this landslide. The Tories in the process have been absolutely wiped out. Sir Ed Davey and the Lib Dems are having a field day again, becoming a relevant party for the first time since they promised to scrap tuition fees and went back on that. So what's the big deal? Well, Keir Starmer, the winning party, got fewer votes than Jeremy Corbyn did. Both times. Yeah, Corbyn got 10.3 million votes, Starmer got 9.7. That's more than 600,000 votes Starmer lost. And compared to the 2017 vote, Keir Starmer lost 3 million votes compared to Corbyn, which is equivalent to a third of his voter base. How has this happened? Well, turnout was shockingly low at 59.9%, the second lowest since the First World War, showing people did not really like any of the choices. The funny story is that Keir Starmer only gained about 1% of the electorate's vote. 1% allowed him to more than double his seats from 202 to 410. The Starmageddon was brought about from a 1% swing in votes. The same had happened with Ed Davey. The Lib Dems gained 0.6% in voting swing, and they more than sextupled their seats from 11 to 71. These tiny number changes should not have the power to change our government so radically. Labour only won 33% of the vote, and when you factor in that only less than 60% of people voted, that means about 20% of the electorate got to create a massive majority and decide the future for the entire country. I don't know how or why we are all acting as if that's okay, or as if that grants them democratic legitimacy. Now there are some who make the argument of, well, 60% turnout, the people who didn't vote shouldn't be counted since they couldn't even be bothered to show up. But here's the thing, there are 2 main reasons people didn't vote in this election. First off is political apathy. As we saw from the video that I made, you can check that out here if you'd like, talking about the YouGov poll. No one voted Labour because they liked their policies or leader, but because they just hated the Tories so much. In a lot of people's minds, both parties were the same thing, so why even bother showing up or voting? The Tories had such a bad track record, and Labour weren't offering any concrete differences or changes in policy, so why bother? It's the same reason you're going to see a very low turnout for the American presidential elections between Biden and Trump, because there isn't much of a difference between them. They're both just bad candidates, so why bother? Second off is our voting system, called first past the post, and how it works is that in any given constituency, the highest number of votes gets a seat. Sounds okay, right? Well, the issue is that technically, if you voted for anyone who didn't win, your vote is wasted. It's not a very big deal if done in just one constituency, but come election time and 650 of them go out, you start to get millions of wasted votes when you add them up across the country. To make a long story short, if you don't vote for the winning party, you may as well just stay home. Take this as an example. So the Green Party had their goal of 4 for 24, 4 seats in this election they wanted to get, and they got their goal, but they actually ended up getting 7% of the total vote, which means they should have had 46 seats if it was a proportional system, but they only got 4. Same goes with Reform. And listen, I personally don't like them one bit, but 14% of the people voted for Reform, which means they should have gone about 91 seats, but in reality, they got just 5. And a similar story happened in 2015, when UKIP mustered up 13% of the vote. Instead of the 82 seats they should have gotten, they had just 1 seat to show for it. People called Jeremy Corbyn's 2019 election a disaster and Boris Johnson's election a success, but both had a swing of 7.9 points and just 1.2 points respectively, which, especially for Johnson, is not that much. But Johnson claimed about 50 seats just because he won those votes in places that were just enough to push it over the edge. But the public had acted as if those 50 seats were fully justified and implied an extra 50 seats of the country that were fully deserved and proportional of the country's approval of his manifesto. This is why we need a new voting system, because apart from the Lib Dems and the Tories somewhat, no one got a fair allotted seat share, especially Labour. After a few elections with terrible representation, people will just start dropping out of the political system, as we've been seeing with our own, like they've done in Iran. In Iran, elections have been boycotted for the last few cycles, which gives the government over there even lower political legitimacy over the people. This is how we'll end up. We are only about 15 to 20 percentage points away from Iran's voter turnout, which is only going down election on election. A quick side note, if you feel like you're getting some value, a subscribe would be great. Countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden, Italy and Germany often get voter turnout 20 to 30% higher than ours, because in their system, your vote matters no matter where you vote. We need to move away from a winner-takes-all system, or else we will find ourselves with a very large disconnect between the people and the political elite, which has already been brewing for some time in the UK now. I also want to point out that this is the worst election in Conservative history, and I blame it on Brexit, but that's a story for another time. As for some key seat results, Nigel Farage won in Clacton, and so did Richard Tice, heads of Reform UK. West Streeting beat out Leah Mohammed by just 1% in Ilford North, and George Galloway lost his Rochdale seat, as did former Prime Minister Liz Truss and Jacob Rees-Mogg. Penny Mordaunt and Grant Shapps also joined them in losing their seats. Rishi Sunak, Suella Braverman, Priti Patel, Jeremy Hunt and James Cleverly all survived, but just about.